Hi there. I have a first page Friday for you where I'd like to introduce you to a book that I'd recommend for writers. So this book was recommended to me by a friend of mine, John, who is an artist in Denver, and John Bonath, he does fantastic work. And he sent me an email and said he just finished up this book and it was so fantastic and I'd better pick it up. So I instantly ordered it from the library and read it pretty quickly. So it's a lovely book called Becoming Duchess Goldblatt. And in this book, we actually have two different things going on because it's got two different stories. So it is a memoir, and it is also a fictional story that's placed on top of that. So it makes it that creative nonfiction piece. So in these two different stories, here's what you have. One story is the memoir, which is this tragic event, this tragic divorce of the writer. We do not know the writer's name, by the way. It is written by Anonymous. And this person experienced a terrible divorce that occurred when her son was 4. And then she had shared custody where she and the son were separated. And it was a pretty traumatizing experience for her and for the son. And she goes through the years of recovery from this trauma and what that did to her of experiencing memory loss, losing the majority of her friends, losing her financial security, being forced to move, really having some very, very significant self-doubt to where it's pretty amazing in the end that she was able to persevere through these terrible events. And then as she's telling this story of these things that happened, she also has flashbacks of where she's talking about events that happened earlier in her own life with her family, where she had an older brother who was about 10 years older than her, who was a severe alcoholic and had extreme mental health issues, and how the family had completely rallied around the brother at the expense of all else, including the expense of raising her. And so she was constantly kind of left out of opportunities of receiving love and affection and acknowledgement and so forth. So, so we have that story, which is her recuperation process that takes years from the original event, which is the divorce, and how she eventually comes through that. And the way that she comes through that, or one of the things that she does anyway, is that she creates a fictional character on Twitter, which is Duchess Goldblatt. And so what she does is she goes on Twitter, but she doesn't want to engage in social media in the way that every other person does, where they go on and they create a profile for themselves and they engage with friends from high school and all of that sort of thing. So instead, what she does is that she goes on there, she creates this fictional character, and then she invents this whole persona for this character. And she ends up engaging with tens of thousands of people who will message her on a regular basis and reach out to her for advice. And she ends up becoming this character who is able to inspire others and to hold others up and to create this whole online community on Twitter of just a really positive environment to hold people together when she's going through this traumatizing experience herself. So it's really interesting to have these two stories occurring side by side. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to read you the first page of Becoming Duchess Goldblatt, and then I'd like to read you a couple of Duchess's lines, a couple of her postings from Twitter, so that you can get a little feel for what Duchess is like as a character. So this is the first page of Becoming Duchess Goldblatt. I must have slept weird, folks. My backstory is killing me. When the house burns down, so to speak, there's no guarantee that anybody will stick around to help sweep up. This is not the dominant narrative I'd been raised to believe in. Sure, Lucy and Ricky could end up divorced. The twin beds were a clue, in hindsight. And he was such a fascist about kicking her out of his stupid nightclub act. But you figure Lucy would always have Ethel Mertz. In my moment of sudden destruction, I learned the very hard way that reinforcements would not be coming. When I lost everything, my Ricky, my Fred and Ethel, the nightclub and band, even the gig on the chocolate factory assembly line, I found out the sheltering trees above me were gone and I was on my own. It's opening day in Crooked Path. Looks like another beautiful season of head games, everybody. So that second piece, that piece down there at the end, is from Duchess. But this introduction that we have is really dropping you right into the story of the real person. We, of course, don't know this person's name. It's written by Anonymous, but her real story of where everything was pulled away from her and she had no safety system whatsoever, physical, mental, emotional, financial safety system to keep her going through this terrible situation. So she had to find her own way through. So that's the first line of Becoming Duchess Goldblatt. And what I'd like to do now is to just share a couple of Duchess's tweets. As you know, Twitter, the tweets are very limited in the number of characters that you can have. So these are, of course, very short. But it gives you a sense of the tone of Duchess and the kinds of things that Duchess would share. The only predictive text I want is that which tells me when and how my enemies will die. My overhead is huge. All of Crooked Path is on the take. The bartenders, festival crowds, innocent bystanders, even the ghosts get per diem. Enlightenment is not a state, friends. It's an unincorporated U.S. territory about the size of Guam. I vacationed there some afternoons. This one's my favorite. Not until people start seeing typos eating out of their garbage cans at night will they regret hunting proofreaders almost to extinction. I think that one's hilarious. Picturing typos eating out of trash cans. So I would definitely recommend this book, Becoming Duchess Goldblatt by Anonymous. A couple of different reasons why this is really helpful to you as a writer. One, it shows you how to tell multiple narratives at the same time. It shows you how to break up the timeline. She doesn't stick to a strict chronological timeline. She'll bounce around the timeline. And I think that she does that in a strong manner. And she also shows you how to reflect upon the uglier times in our lives. Because all of us have those. All of us have those dark shadows. We all have those closets where things are kind of bursting out, and sometimes we push against the door to keep those closets closed. And she does an excellent job of revealing what that experience is like in the present tense, to look back on that and to try to peel away those layers and see what's under there. So I think that there's a lot to be gained as a writer from reading Duchess Goldblatt, and I hope that you find it to be of value too. So hope that you take the time to read it, and I hope it's helpful to you. Good luck with your writing.